Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and I've been playing around a lot with Mastodon over the last month or so. You can see my page up over here. And this is a completely decentralized social media network. It operates a lot like Twitter, so in the wake of all the turbulence going on at Twitter, people started finding their way to Mastodon to plant their social media flags and have a different experience. And what's happened is that with so many users coming in, it's starting to feel more of a vibrant place. And what I thought I would do in this video is show you what I am doing with Mastodon, talk about the architecture a little bit of the network so you can get a better feel and understanding for how it works, and talk about some pitfalls that the network might encounter as it grows in popularity. So let's get to it. Now, Mastodon has been picking up some steam over the last couple of weeks in the wake of all the Twitter drama. Right now, they're at approximately 8.1 million accounts, but note that number includes bots and duplicate users and everything. And they've added 382,000 new accounts in the last week. So there's clearly a lot of new activity happening here. And Mastodon is not new. It's been around for a while, but all of the recent activity, I think, is more than they've seen ever, and I don't think it's going to tail off anytime soon. The question is, how much more growth do they get, and whether or not the network can handle all that growth, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Now, my presence is at Lon.TV at indieweb.social, and if you type this address in on your Mastodon server of choice, you will find me and you can follow me. And this is one of the big differences in how Mastodon works versus other platforms, in that you have to pick a server to plant your flag on before you can get into the network. So you don't just go to mastodon.org and set up an account. You've got to go and find a server that kind of fits what you're looking for. And then from there, you can get into the rest of the federated universe. They call it the Fediverse, where all of these different servers communicate with each other and pass communications between their users. Now, the best way, I think, to look for a server is to head over to joinmastodon.org and go over to the server screen here. And what you'll see are servers in different regions, but you can also break it down by different topics. And what I ended up choosing for my account was the indieweb.social server. And the reason I went with this is that a friend of mine I went to college with is very much interested in this movement called the indie web, which is really encouraging people to set up their own websites, host their content on that website, and then syndicate that content out elsewhere, which is what I do. My entire online presence kind of revolves around my blog at blog.lon.tv, and I take the content from there and then publish it out to all the other centrally controlled social media networks. That way, if anything ever happens to one of these networks, I don't lose all of my work. I keep it on something that I own and control. And so it made a lot of sense, if I have that mindset, that I would choose a Mastodon server where I can find like-minded people who are also looking to own and control their content. So that's why I went with that. But there's a lot more to choose from here. Now, I would do a little bit of homework before you choose a server, and the reason is that servers can be run by individuals and by organizations, and different servers have different rules, and if they decide one day they don't like you, your presence and identity on the Fediverse can be removed just like that, because you're based on the server that you're logging into. So for example, if we go over to this server called newsy.social, I just picked this one randomly, you'll see that it's administered by somebody named Jeff, and they have 15,000 active users. I can click on Jeff's name here and see some of the things that he's posting, so I can get a feel for what his positions are on things perhaps. I also can go into the About section down here on the left, and most servers are laid out the same way, and get a feel for the rules that this server has and the kind of moderation that is going on. And this is really important because, again, Jeff here can kick you off his server and kick you off the Fediverse at the same time. You can also see what servers that this one is moderating. So some servers can choose not to take in any content from other servers. So if there's a server that a lot of people that you follow are on, you want to make sure that that server is not being moderated by your server of choice. And of course, the administrator of the server can decide who gets moderated as well. Additionally, the things you post on here, including private messages, may be readable by the server administrator. So you don't have necessarily the same level of protection that you might have on a Twitter or a Facebook, where there's a corporation that you could sue if your privacy is violated. Here you may have more trouble, especially if the administrator of the server is not located in your home country. Now, when you choose a server, you will likely have to apply for access first. In other words, someone has to approve your account before you're let in, and that person is usually the system administrator. So on the indieweb.social server that I'm on, I had to agree to these ground rules first. And then after that, I had to give a reason for why I want to join their server. And it took a day or two before they approved me. So this is something that you'll likely see on most of the servers that you want to attach yourself to. So let's take a look at my Mastodon profile. You'll see that I've got a check mark here, but this is nothing more than just an emoji that I stuck in there. Because there is no centralized authority here, there is no one to verify who's real and who isn't. But they did come up with, I think, a pretty clever workaround. So what you can see here is that my About page here is lit up green. And what this means is that I went into my Edit Profile page here, and I stuck in a little bit of code into my website, and this verified to my server that I am who I say I am, because I had control over the domain that I was posting on the profile. And so that's something that you can do to help people know that you are really you, because there really isn't any way to police identity on the Fediverse, which is perhaps one pitfall of a decentralized network like this. But you can see I've got all of my account information here, and then all of my latest posts here follow. Now, I will be doing a video about my link blog in the coming days, but I basically have a little Docker container set up that looks at my link blog RSS feed and just spits these out automatically. This was a poll that I saw one of my friends participating in, and I decided to chip in there as well, and I retweeted essentially, or boosted the post. And then I have a post here that I made about getting 100 followers on the platform. Let me zoom back out here though and go to just the home page. Now, when you log into your Mastodon server, you're going to see things from the people that you are following, in addition to seeing things that the people you follow are boosting or retweeting if you are using the Twitter vernacular here. So here is my home screen, and the first thing I see is my friend Dr. 47, a friend of mine from my high school days, who posted a photo here. You can see how that works. You can do photos and videos. Just keep in mind, though, that the servers that you're operating from may be on a really tight budget, and if they get too many photos and videos on there, it's going to impact their bandwidth and their storage costs, and that might lead to the server going kaput. So many servers have a Patreon or something that you can use to help chip in to keep the server operating. So this is not a bottomless pit like YouTube is. There are costs that are shared amongst the users, so just be aware of that. Here is a post that was boosted by Anil Dash, who's somebody that I follow here. Ian O'Neill works for NASA, so I was just following him on here, and you can just see everything that people are posting or boosting. There is no algorithm here, so this is basically a fire hose that's going to post things in the order in which they are being sent out to the network. And I haven't found anything that's going to filter this down for you at all. There are things that you can do to filter things out yourself, but there is not going to be any kind of algorithmic recommendation. It's just going to be the most recent post at the top of the list, and then it'll go down from there. Now, you can also follow hashtags. So if you go up to the search here, and let's do Artemis1, what we'll get is a hashtag that we can click on. And if I click on the little plus icon here, this will follow the hashtag. So anytime somebody in the Fediverse posts with this hashtag, it'll show up in my home feed. This works really well right now, but I think if the network gets more congested, this will obviously be a vector for spam. So we'll see how long this works out well for. But right now, while things are pretty nice on the Fediverse, this is a great way to follow topics that you're interested in from people you may not know. Now, as far as the search goes, you can type in plain text, but for example, if I just type in the word Artemis here without a hashtag and I select posts, all I'm going to see are things that I posted or reboosted. So the search is a little limited in the sense that it doesn't extend outward to the rest of the Fediverse, but I could search for people named Artemis, and that, of course, would pull in accounts from other servers. Now, one other thing to point out here is that not all of these big names are actually using Mastodon. So, for example, NASA's logo and name are here, but if we click into their profile, you will see that this is not actually the real NASA. It is a bot, labeled as such at least, and is the quote-unquote unofficial NASA. And what they're doing is basically grabbing things that appear on the NASA Twitter feed and then moving it over to Mastodon through an automated process. And if I go up here to the search area and type in NASA and go to people, you can see there are a number of NASA accounts here, and it's not clear if any of these are actually real NASA accounts. So it really requires you, I think, to do some homework, not only of the server that you're connecting to, but also the accounts that you follow, so you can make sure they are who they say they are. Now, one tool that I found to be very useful is called Twittodon, which you can find at twittodon.com. And what this will do is go through the people you follow on Twitter and look on their profile to see if they've put their Mastodon link in it. So as you can see, I added my Mastodon account to my Twitter profile, so if people are running tools like this, they'll know that this account is the same Lon Seidman that they're following on Twitter. Now, as I mentioned at the outset, finding the right server to start on is important, and that's because of the local button here. Now, when I click on local, what I will get are the latest posts from everyone that's on the indieweb.social server. So I might be able to find people talking about topics related to the indie web that I'm interested in. Now, of course, everything else they're talking about is going to be on here too. But it's a fun way to kind of localize the experience around a region or a topic, depending on what your server is covering. And then, of course, you can jump back to your home page here and pull content in from everyone else that you're following. Now, there is also a button for federated content. And what this does is it brings in everything that's being posted to the network in real time. And this is not just your server. It's every server that your server can see. But as you can see, it comes in so quickly, it's really hard to keep up with, and this is of limited utility. Now, you also have notifications here. This will tell you anytime one of your posts gets reboosted or somebody replies to you. Like Twitter, you can go from a like notification if somebody just hits the star button on one of your posts and narrow it down to just people that are mentioning you directly, and you can interact with them. Now, posts are interesting on the Fediverse here. Now, Mastodon supports a maximum of 500 characters per post, a little more than Twitter allows. You can attach photos, videos, and audio files by clicking the attach button here. You have a polling mechanism that you can attach to your post here. Over here determines the privacy of the post, which is kind of neat. So if I click on this, I can have the post be visible to all as public. I can have it be unlisted, but it won't show up in the discovery features like search and other things. I can limit it to just people following me, or I can direct it to an individual user or a group of mentioned users. So you've got kind of a replacement here for Twitter's direct messaging. But just note, this is not a secure mechanism of communication, and they give you a warning here about that. So certainly the server administrator can see this, and the messages are passed between servers without any kind of end-to-end encryption. So I would not use this for mission-critical communications unless you are encrypting it before you type it in. Now, you can also apply a content warning, so the content is filtered unless somebody clicks on it to see it first. And if you enable this option, you can put your warning in here about what the person is about to see. And remember, there are different rules on different servers about what needs a warning and what doesn't. So a lot of people often play it safe and put the warning in even if it's a pretty benign topic. And sometimes it's just fun to put a warning on something even if it doesn't need it. Now, as I mentioned, there is no master algorithm driving what you see on Mastodon, but there is a discovery feature in the Explore section here. So if I click on that, what we're going to see are posts initially that are popular on this server that I'm on, which is the indieweb.social server. And you can see Tim Chambers here, who's the administrator of the server, posted this, and it had a lot of activity on my local server. We're also going to see something here that came from somebody from another server, but as you can see, it had a lot of boosts, and that put it into the Explore section. But you'll notice here that these are the top posts, and they don't have huge numbers, and that's because the Mastodon network is so much smaller than Twitter, even with 8.1 million users on board. It just isn't yet at the scale that something like Twitter or Facebook is at. But I'm finding generally that the posts here are pretty interesting, at least most of them are. A lot of grousing about Twitter, of course, but there are some interesting things in there nonetheless. Now we're still in the Explore section here, and what I can also click on are hashtags, and this will show us some of the more popular hashtags on the network right now. Again, not huge numbers, but this is the top mentioned hashtag across the network at the moment. One disappointing thing so far is that when I click on news, all I see are articles from The Verge, and most of them, at least over the last couple of days, were articles from The Verge complaining about Twitter. So there wasn't a lot of value to what I was getting out of the news tab. Hopefully they do some work on that soon. And they have something here called For You, and these are accounts that they recommend you follow, I'm guessing based on who some of your followers are following, or perhaps some of the people that you're following are following. So pretty interesting stuff here to try to discover new content to explore. Now, like Twitter, you can block and mute people that you don't want to see or hear from. You also have the ability to go into the preferences here and filter out individual posts based on specific keywords if you want. So you do have some control over what you see coming into your feed. Now, another neat thing about Mastodon is that RSS is built into it. So if I put .rss at the end of my profile here, you can see that I immediately get an RSS feed. The same is true of hashtags as well. So for example here, if I click on the most popular hashtag right now, which is a bunch of dogs on Monday it looks like, and I just go put .rss at the end of that, you will see I get an RSS feed that I can use in my feed readers and that sort of thing. And if you go to Lon.TV/RSS, you can learn more about RSS and why it's great to see that it's built into this social media network by default. Now, there are mobile apps available, and this one is the official Mastodon app. And what this will do is just give you your home feed. You can't browse your local server on here, but you do have the ability to make new posts. By the way, they call them toots on Mastodon for some reason. You can also do your recommended posts here by clicking the hourglass and search for hashtags and other items here as well. Again, nothing but The Verge here in the news section, but it is getting all of this data from the same server we were just on the web. And then, of course, you have your notifications here, and it will do push notifications like the Twitter app does. So pretty nice experience here. There's other apps available also, though. So one that I found that I like quite a bit is called Mercury. This is free. And what this one does that the official app doesn't is that it does give me my local server. So I can browse the local feed on this app, which I can't do on the official Mastodon app because the development team doesn't feel that's a good use case for a mobile app. So pretty cool stuff here. You've got some choices as to how you want to access your account, and there are more mobile apps than just this. And because this is open source and everything is out there, you can write your own applications, and of course I'm sure we'll see a lot more get contributed as the popularity of Mastodon grows. But there's definitely going to be some growing pains with Mastodon, especially scaling up these servers as they get more popular. This is a fun article I read from about 3 or 4 years ago when one of the larger Mastodon servers called Mastodon.social surpassed 43,000 users. And the author here talks about a lot of the steps they had to take to get that server running at scale. There's a great article here on GitHub about using a DigitalOcean droplet for running a Mastodon server, and they estimate that it'll cost about $50 or $60 a month or so to do it. And of course, you can spin up your own server and just put it on the network and maybe just have it be for you if you want. But I do think you miss out on a lot of conversation and meeting new people if you don't have a network of people to talk to on that local server. So this is something that I'm not going to do right away, although I am seeing some folks deciding to go in that direction because they'd prefer to have total control over their presence on the Mastodon network. Now, what will happen, though, occasionally is the instance that you're running on may decide to shut down. Now, this is an example of one that's about to close up. In fact, it's the one that is referenced here on the GitHub article we just looked at, Mastodon.technology. And the right thing to do as a server operator is to give people time to get their data off so they can move someplace else. But it doesn't guarantee that that's going to happen should your administrator suddenly decide enough is enough. So one of the things I would recommend that you do is go in and export your data from time to time, and also brush up on what the migration process is. So you do have the option in your preferences to export everything, including all of your toots, your posts, all of your media storage, your followers, your lists, everything that you've got set up. You can export all of that and then re-import it onto the new server later. And then you can also set up a redirect for your profile so that if you decide just to move your server, you will have a spot on your existing one to let everyone know that you're now located someplace else so they know how to keep following you. Now, what's funny is just as I was recording this segment, I saw this toot from Anil Dash who says that his server is in danger of being moderated by other servers because they don't like the way his server administrator is handling misuse of the network. So he's thinking about having to move to a different instance that may be less likely to have this issue, and he's asking for advice as to where he should go. And I think this is the sort of problem we're going to see as the growing pains kick in on this network, because your server could be perfectly healthy, but if other servers don't like the way your administrator handles things, they might blacklist the server and you're not getting out to the rest of the federated network. But so far, I'm enjoying my time on Mastodon. It kind of reminds me of the early days of Google+, where most of the people using it were geeks and trying to figure out new ways to use the platform. And while Mastodon is not new, it is new for many of the people that are currently using it. And so there's a lot of exploration and discovery going on here. It also kind of reminds me of the old BBS days where you would log into a local BBS, the local system operator would have to approve you for access, and then once you were in, you had access to a federated network of other bulletin board systems. The most popular network was FidoNet. And I've actually got a whole video on the BBS era in my links in the description that you can check out to learn more about it. But it's very similar, I think, in how it's coming together here. And I just like the fact that this is starting to get some traction. And there's always room in my workflow here for another social media network, especially a decentralized, independent, emerging one. So I'm eager to see what happens as time goes on here, whether or not this is just a little passing interest or perhaps something new and exciting. So stay tuned. Definitely follow me on Mastodon if you are not already, and you'll be seeing a lot of the content that I post in other places showing up there as well. Until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold level supporters Brian Parker, Chris Allegretta, Hot Sauce and Video Games, Logic KGR, Tom Albrecht, and Amda Brown. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to lon.tv/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit lon.tv/s.